Aries, fiery child of the cosmos, when destiny calls, it rarely does so with a polite knock, it kicks down the door and demands your attention. If you have found yourself here, listening to these words, trust that it is not coincidence. In astrology, timing is everything, and in the great unfolding of the Year of Triumph 2025, the universe is pointing its cosmic finger right at you. This is not a reading meant to lull you into comfort, it is a checkpoint, a moment when life itself whispers, or rather shouts, prepare yourself, because change is no longer optional. You, Aries, were not born to sit quietly in the corner while the world goes by. You were born to ignite, to lead, to test boundaries and set new fires where old ones have turned to ash. Psychology might call this restless energy a drive for individuation. Buddhist teachings might frame it as the stirring of karma urging you toward new dharma. And yet, in plain language, it simply means your soul is hungry again. So, pack your metaphorical bags, because the next chapter is not about safety, it's about challenge, growth, and the thrill of standing at the edge of a cliff and saying, well, it's a long way down, but what of you? Let us pause with the Devil card, a symbol that so often gets misunderstood, as though it were a red-horned figure waiting to snatch away your better judgment. In truth, the Devil in tarot is far less about external evil and far more about the raw, untamed force within you. Think of it less like a demon and more like the roar of a V8 engine under the hood of a car. It is sheer horsepower, neither good nor bad until someone decides how to use it. And in this story, Aries, you are firmly in the driver's seat. Psychology might frame this as the interplay of instinctual drives, the urge for pleasure, the push of aggression, the spark of creativity. Society too has long wrestled with these forces, warning us of their dangers while secretly running on them like caffeine. Too much pleasure, and you slide into indulgence that feels sweet until it rots. Too much aggression, and suddenly you've become the antagonist in someone else's chapter. But when you take hold of the wheel with wisdom, channeling all those drives into creation, into building, shaping, leaving behind a legacy, then the engine purrs in harmony with destiny itself. Even the Buddha, with his gentle reminder of the middle way, might say, don't junk the car, just learn to steer. And Aries, steering has always been your gift. The Devil card is asking you a deceptively simple but life-altering question: what's driving you right now? Is it the comfort of routine, the ego's thirst for control, or that deeper hunger to create something meaningful, something that outlives you? The truth is, the choice is yours. Just remember, no one likes an Aries with road rage, but everyone loves an Aries who builds the highway. Aries, let's be honest, you're not built for long stretches of comfort. And yet, many of you have arrived at a place where life looks polished and predictable. The business runs smoothly, the career ladder feels secure beneath your feet, the family routines are well-oiled, and your reputation, carefully cultivated, gleams respectably. In short, the tomatoes in your garden are lined up perfectly, and you could, if you wanted, sit back with iced tea and admire the neat rows. But here is the cosmic joke: Aries doesn't do neat rows. You were not born to spend decades reclining in a hammock, you were born to climb cliffs, even if no one else sees the point of the mountain. Psychology would call this your novelty-seeking impulse, but I prefer to think of it as the divine itch, the spiritual restlessness that awakens whenever your soul realizes it has outgrown its current container. And make no mistake, that itch has been scratching at you lately. Everything may look fine on paper, yet deep down you hear a whisper, this isn't it. There's something more. It's the same feeling as leaving a buffet stuffed to the brim. For an hour, you swear you'll never eat again, but by evening, hunger prowls back, not because you need calories, but because the appetite for life always renews itself. Aries, your spirit operates the same way. Comfort feeds you briefly, but soon the hunger for passion, risk, and meaning wakes you in the middle of the night. The Buddha might gently remind you not to mistake temporary satisfaction for lasting fulfillment, while a novelist would simply say, "You're restless because the next chapter is calling," and hammocks make for very boring stories. When the Judgment card and the Ace of Pentacles appear together, it is less a gentle suggestion and more a cosmic fire alarm. This is not the universe politely asking if you'd like dessert, this is the universe rolling up with a flaming doorway and saying, "Step through or stay stuck where you are." For some Aries, this threshold will take the shape of literal travel, new city, new country, maybe even a new time zone where the coffee tastes different and the neighbors pronounce your name funny. For others, it is symbolic, a bold career shift, a business venture that makes your relatives nervous, a relationship that redefines your sense of intimacy, or perhaps a spiritual quest that has you meditating at dawn instead of doom scrolling at midnight. The details vary, but the essence is the same. You cannot linger forever in the waiting room of your old life. And here's the twist, destiny isn't going to shove you through the door. The universe, like a patient teacher, simply sets the exam paper in front of you. The answers are up to you. Aries has never been one to sit back passively, your biography is written in the ink of initiative. Yet, this time, the challenge is not about conquering others but about having the courage to accept your own hunger for change. Think of it as the Buddha's teaching in modern form, no one can walk the path for you. And Aries, true to your fiery nature, you wouldn't want them to anyway. Every true turning point in life comes with its own chorus of resistance, and the Seven of Wands captures that tension perfectly. The moment you announce a new plan, whether it's handing in your resignation letter, booking a one-way ticket across the ocean, launching that business nobody in your family understands, or finally walking away from a relationship that flatlined years ago, expect the pushback. Someone will inevitably call you reckless, dramatic, or worse, impulsive. Translation: they're uncomfortable because your transformation threatens the static picture they've painted of you. Psychology reminds us that people often cling to familiar roles. If you've been the reliable employee, the predictable partner, or the dependable friend, your leap into the unknown disrupts their sense of security. But here's the wisdom: not everyone is meant to accompany you into the next chapter. Those who applaud your courage are your real companions, those who resist belong to the fading scenery of the story you're outgrowing. Aries, your fire has always been double-edged. It illuminates the path for some, but for others it feels like a spotlight they never asked for. And honestly, that's not your burden to carry. Even the Buddha taught that attachment causes suffering, and sometimes that includes other people's attachment to who you used to be. So, let them grumble, let them cling. You're not here to dim your flames so someone else can stay cozy in the dark. You're here to burn brighter, even if it singes a few eyebrows along the way. Here's where the story takes a sober but necessary turn. Hunger, Aries, is a marvelous thing. It keeps you restless, ambitious, unwilling to settle for mediocrity. But left unchecked, that same hunger can become your downfall. The devil's energy, when impatient, makes you leap before you look. It's the spiritual equivalent of storming a buffet with an empty stomach and ending up with a plate stacked high with stale bread rolls, only to realize the steak was being carved 2 minutes later. That's why the Strength card, sometimes called Lust, appears as your teacher. This is not about extinguishing your fire, nor about pretending you don't want more. It is about discipline, channeling the flame rather than letting it scorch the whole village. A blacksmith knows the truth: fire must be hot enough to shape the steel but controlled enough not to destroy it. Psychology calls this impulse control, Buddhist teaching calls it the middle way. Either way, the message is clear: patience is not weakness but mastery. Your lesson now is to resist snacking on the crumbs of quick gratification and instead hold your appetite for the true feast your soul craves. After all, Aries, why settle for bread rolls when destiny is serving a 5-course banquet? When the Emperor card shows up in your spread, Aries, it is as if the cosmos itself is handing you back the keys to your own kingdom. This isn't about ruling with an iron fist or barking orders like some cartoon general. The Emperor, in its highest form, is not a tyrant but a builder, someone who understands that power is not measured by how loudly you command but by how steadily you create. And for you, Aries, this is the homecoming of your true archetype. The Emperor whispers, I will focus, I will choose, I will manifest. In plain English, stop talking about what you're going to do and start laying the bricks. Psychology would call this the union of discipline and drive, the moment where intention hardens into structure. Society, of course, always benefits when Aries steps into this role, because you become less the rebel with a cause and more the architect of change. And in the year of triumph 2025, this is your lethal combination: discipline plus drive equals manifestation. The chosen ones among you will stop doubting and start building, finally realizing that your restless fire was never meant to burn out couches, it was meant to forge foundations. Yet, there's a twist, and it comes with the sly arrival of the Seven of Swords. This card reminds us that the hardest act for an Aries is not the leap into action but the pause before it. Meditation, silence, reflection, none of these words usually make your heart race. And yet, this is exactly where your destiny reveals itself. The path you seek will not come from your neighbor's advice, nor from the endless scroll of social media, and certainly not from your anxious brain trying to run endless what-if calculations. No, it will come in whispers through dreams, flashes of intuition, the quiet voice of spirit. The Buddha would call this listening to the silence between breaths. A novelist might call it waiting for the plot twist to reveal itself. So, yes, fiery Aries, sit still just long enough to see the doorway. Otherwise, you'll end up mistaking the bread rolls for the banquet, and you deserve more than carbs. From a psychological lens, what Aries is moving through now is strikingly close to what Carl Jung described as individuation, the deep drive for wholeness, a restless hunger to integrate new parts of the self into a more authentic form. It is not a midlife crisis, though it can look like one. It is not mere impulsivity, though critics may label it that. It is the psyche's insistence that you shed the skin that no longer fits. In the social sphere, Aries energy often plays the role of the disruptor, sparking revolutions that others only dared whisper about. History has always relied on those with fire in their veins to shake institutions awake. And yet, society tends to reward conformity. It tells you, settle down, stay in your lane, pay your taxes, don't rock the boat. But Aries, by nature, has little interest in rowing quietly. Your response is almost always, forget the boat, I'll build a rocket. And so you are admired for your courage, yet misunderstood for your timing. What others call impatience is simply your alignment with a cosmic clock that runs faster than the one on their wall. You move when spirit says move, even if the neighborhood committee still hasn't approved the motion. But let's not drown in solemnity. A little humor keeps the fire from consuming us. Aries, you are that friend who declares, I'll just rearrange the living room, and by sunset, the drywall is down, the floor plan is unrecognizable, and the entire house has been refitted with IKEA furniture you assembled without instructions. You don't simply shift the couch, you shift continents. And truly, we wouldn't have it any other way. Without Aries, humanity might still be huddled in caves, debating whether fire is too dangerous to use. It is your impatience, your boldness, and yes, your willingness to demolish the familiar, that drags society forward. If the rest of us grumble as you light the match, we should at least remember, someone had to strike the first spark. Here is where the threads of this journey weave into one clear tapestry of wisdom. Aries, you've already proven you can build. You've cultivated careers, families, reputations, maybe even entire kingdoms of tomato plants lined in perfect rows. Celebrate that. But do not mistake stability for permanence. Life is motion, and the universe has already placed a luminous doorway in front of you. Step through it with courage, knowing some will cheer you and others will resist. Bless the doubters, thank the chorus of critics, and keep walking. Their comfort is not your responsibility. What matters now is hunger guided by discipline. Without discipline, hunger turns into chaos. With it, hunger becomes the fire that forges destiny. This is why the Emperor has returned for you. Your throne is not the seat of a tyrant but the chair of the architect who decides what new structures must rise. And above all, trust your intuition. The High Priestess whispers in silence, not in noise. She doesn't promise dead ends, she opens secret doors. Your task is to listen. This is your fire moment, your rebirth, the season you will later call the turning point. In the year of triumph 2025, the chosen ones of Aries will not remember the hesitation, only the courage. So, Aries, are you ready? The cosmic engine is already running. The car is in your hands, the road ahead is wide open, and the only question left is, will you drive, or will you sit in the passenger seat of your own life? One hint, no great Aries story ever began with "I decided to stay home and nap." Thank you for being here with me on Zodiac Talks Tarot. If this message resonates, hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and tell me what mountain are you ready to climb next? Remember, Aries, destiny isn't waiting. It's already knocking.